everyone. My name is Emily Singer Lucio, and I'm the ADA coordinator for the University of Maryland. Henry, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, I am Henry Hausmann. I am a now sixth year PhD candidate in atmospheric and oceanic sciences.
Great, thanks, Henry. Welcome. We're happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Talk with you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to talk with you a little bit today about your life on campus and with a disability. So let's start off by having you tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I think to begin with, kind of the question on, I think, why I'm here on this podcast, like the disability I have is I am legally blind. Kind of have always had some level of visual impairment, and it has, again, like somewhat degenerative, and basically at the end of last year, finally reached the threshold of legal blindness. I think in my case, there's a couple different ways that you can be defined legally blind. It's either distance vision, which mine is bad, but not quite at that threshold, or visual field, which mine is at about 20 degrees, which means, yeah, like I have a field of vision. If you're to draw out a circle, it's not all that much, so I can kind of see what's directly in front of me, and not a ton in either direction. And yeah, as one can imagine, this comes with any number of difficulties and challenges in kind of navigating my life as a grad student, as a scientist, as kind of the other big thing I've done on campus outside of grad school has been as kind of a union organizer. And but yeah, it poses any number of challenges and potentially some opportunities.
Yeah, I can imagine that's probably been difficult to deal with, and I'm assuming that it's sort of, as you said, it's been a gradual progression.
Yes.
So, could you talk a little bit about how it's been at different stages of your life and when you learned that you had a disability and what that was like?
Yeah, I think maybe in kind of the end of elementary school is when I think my parents noticed that I had, I think, whatever, just would occasionally miss things or not notice things, ended up taking me in for kind of like a eye doctor specialist to kind of get a sense of what was wrong. Kind of they first tried, I think the standard approach for people is just like, yeah, see if glasses work. And it turns out that this, because my problem is mostly with kind of the like retina and the optic nerve, and it's a rod cone dystrophy, so it means lenses did not actually fix any of the problems. So kind of as that became apparent, we then, over the course of middle and high school, went to kind of like more and more specialists, a lot of doctor's visits, which I was not the largest fan of at age 12 or whatever. Still not the biggest fan of the just increased number, but I was very fortunate to kind of be, I grew up in Maine, so we were very close to Boston Children's that had a kind of large number of like just like people specializing in kind of children's retinal health specifically, and that kind of got into whatever a bunch of experts and got a diagnosis of like a kind of retinal dystrophy and rod cone dystrophy. And yeah, it was kind of has been from that point just a slow and gradual decline. There's not necessarily a like seminal moment of ever anything. It's just kind of each day the vision can be a bit worse than the last, and I'll occasionally look back at something that I did a couple of years ago with relative ease and realize, oh, now in the current condition that my eyes are in, this is a kind of like much more difficult process. Like, I think back of whatever in middle and high school, I was a voracious reader, read mostly like paperback physical books. Now I still read a lot, but I'm much more audiobooks, just because that is a method that is just much easier to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of us who vision, eyesight, take for granted all the things that we can see. And we don't really also take the time to appreciate some of the things we're able to see as we're walking or going about our day-to-day daily lives. I'd love it if you could share a little bit, if you're comfortable talking a little bit about what that's been like in terms of, realizing what you can no longer see anymore, or know that at some point in time you may not be able to see.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think the one that to me always stands out, and I feel like there's a level of, like, I don't know, almost melodrama to it, is the fact that I have extreme difficulty, and I think at this point cannot see the stars out at night. Like, it's just a very, like, whatever. I do remember being a small child, whatever, grew up, like, rural, and would go out in the backyard, look up, see them, and that kind of is this kind of, like, very seminal, kind of like, whatever, it's used in poetry, it's used in all kinds of imagery throughout human history as this, like, epitome of beauty, of looking up and being inspired through whatever, any number of artists, any number of writers, and realizing that, oh, this is a point where my eyes have deteriorated to the point that I cannot make them out at night, even out in, I think, quite rural, quite remote areas with minimal to no light pollution. And
Do you have memory of what they looked like from when you could see them?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also thinking of, I don't know, this is one of the most absurd assignments I did, and I think I took an astronomy class, and at one point had the Northern Hemisphere star chart memorized, but couldn't actually see them, just because that was what you had to do for the final for that class, was be able to redraw the star chart. And I don't know, that
what
felt
did you do?
like I was able to, like, from the, like, whatever, like, a printed out, like, close up, was able to figure it out, but it did, just looking back at it, it was like, oh, this was clearly a class that was, whatever, probably could have advocated better for an alternative accommodation for something that would have just been marginally more relevant and not kind of, I don't know, constantly sticking in my face that, oh, here's a thing you're having to memorize that will not actually help you in any way in the same way it does for everyone else taking the class.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's been degenerative, are there things you remember from different stages of your life that you were able to do at some point in time that you've since not been able to do now?
Yeah, like, I think another big one is when I was a kid, just a really big avid skier.
Oh.
And yeah, and it's just been a couple years since I've tried to go out on the mountains. And I remember the last time I was out, it was just I don't know, substantially more difficult process. There's things that, whatever, I can't really track moving objects.
Yeah, but there are blind skiers, right? So.
Yeah, no, and it is something that I think I need to look into. I think there's a couple of mountains that will have like an assisted, like, skier. They'll have basically someone go out with you,
it's
and
guide.
someone who's, like, trained and is very, very skilled and competent out on the slopes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is something that I probably would not be comfortable doing on my own at this point.
Yeah, I grew up skiing, and where I grew up skiing, there was a blind skier program, and so there were oftentimes a lot of blind skiers around and with guides and stuff, and it always totally amazed me, all the stuff they were able to do, which was phenomenal. So, but I can imagine it's a challenge, right? And it's probably a little bit difficult to give up something you used to enjoy doing too.
Yeah, and I think even the like, guidance part, and I think this is something that is, I found true of a lot of blind people, is we're very stubborn and very prideful, and it can be, whatever, asking for help might not seem like much, but it can be a very difficult thing to do at times.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, accepting that this is not something I can do on my own.
Yeah. What have you found helpful to share with others about yourself in terms of your disability?
I do think just the notion, a lot of people have like whatever kind of two almost opposite perspectives on the blind and visually impaired. It's kind of either the idea of us as completely helpless, completely incapable, or I don't know, something based on whatever, like Daredevil out of Marvel Comics, of whatever, like the senses will drastically increase to compensate, and there's like whatever, I guess some truth of like my I think audio acuity is much better than average, but whatever. I'm not going to be out on the streets of New York beating up gangsters.
Well, I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah, but I think it is the truth. The fact that the truth is just somewhere in the middle. It is like whatever I can do. I'd like to think can do the majority of things that a fully sighted person can do. It's just sometimes the process of doing that is going to take more effort on my part, might take assistance, might take extra steps, but I think if it is something that I truly desire, truly like am willing to push for, I think it's the belief that it can be done. Like we the blind are not helpless.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. I mean, look how far we've come, right? In probably since you've been a child, right? I mean, we've made significant strides in technology and resources and all sorts of things to help any individual with a disability. So
Yeah.
but I think the first step of that is acknowledging that, people with disabilities are a part of our world. They should be treated equally, and we need to do a better job as a society, right, in ensuring that there's not a stigma with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you wish other people knew or understood about you?
It's a good question. I think one of the things that I think is interesting about I think my specific disability is it is not one, and I guess pardon the pun, that is visible from the outside. It's not like I think there's no like clear indicator. I think some people, if they know what to look for, can tell like certain patterns of whatever the way I look at things, the way I kind of interact with the world. If you've interacted with someone who's blind or visually impaired before, you can figure it out. But I think there is just an exhaustion of having to explain this process, explain myself. Like whatever, every time I meet a new person, every time I get to know someone, and I think this is something that I've become better at over time. I kind of as I've whatever had to as the vision has gotten worse, as I've kind of had to be more of an advocate for myself. Couldn't let it slide by. I've kind of gotten to improve at my ability to just communicate that this is the problems I have. This is kind of what you can do to make that easier. I think the other thing that I think has gotten me a lot better on that place, I think as I mentioned, have been heavily involved in union organizing to kind of work for better rights and working conditions for grads here on campus, which has required just a lot of talking to people. And I think that is a process that I would recommend if you want to get comfortable talking to people, talking to strangers, like explaining things and having real emotional conversation with people. Get involved in organizing of any kind, and it is the fastest way I have found to just improve your skills on that front.
That's great advice. I appreciate that. Are there preconceived ideas people have about you?
I think occasionally, like there are things of whatever. I think occasionally I'll get people who will just like whatever assume I'm helpless, assume I need a greater degree of assistance than I actually do. Like it's like I will notice as soon as someone either figures out that I'm legally blind or is told. Like occasionally, I'll get people that are suddenly like helpful to a degree that I can find almost insulting.
Mm-hmm.
Of it's like, no, I've been living in the world as a whatever independent individual for whatever at this point 9 years since I left home to start college. If I have a thing that I need from you, I will ask. uh, in general, I think that is probably the biggest uh, kind of preconceived notion that I at least notice mostly because it annoys me.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I'm often telling people, before offering help, make sure, or before helping somebody with a disability, make sure to ask, because they may need help and they might not need help, right? And as you just said, you will ask for help if you need it. But I think the ask part is the important part, right? Because not everybody. I've seen situations where people with disabilities are trying to either open a door or trying to do something, and someone offers to help, and it ends up being a little bit more problematic than they had intended.
Yeah, like it comes off as infantilizing almost. Yeah, and it's also like I think people will also see whatever an interaction with me and a close friend maybe, and there's I think a fundamentally different relationship and trust there of whatever if I've known them for several years. They're going to be able to know without asking, like, okay, this is one of the, like, couple of things that Henry actually wants
Yeah.
help on.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Like, I have a friend who's, like, very good at, like, not doing much on this, but whatever. If we, like, enter, like, a very dark restaurant or, like, a dark bar space or something, she'll grab my arm and lead me to the table or something just because she's like, okay, this is one of the few occasions where Henry has asked for help repeatedly in the past, and I know that this is one of the instances where, where like this is actually appreciated, but that also comes from knowing me for a while,
Yeah,
for
and
actually,
knowing that situation.
yeah, for actually having a sense of what I appreciate and what I do not.
Yeah, I appreciate that. What have been some of your biggest challenges, and how have you worked through them?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has been because I'm a climate scientist. I work a lot with kind of data visualization and kind of the creation of maps of specifically because I look at kind of sea level rise and its impact on several coastal ecosystems and kind of how they can uh, like mitigate its impacts.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, no, it's very cool work.
Cool. Yeah.
But it is a lot of it is just figuring whatever getting maps that kind of work for both me and a general audience of it just whatever it's one of those things that it like many other things I can do it. It's just a kind of like large time suck
Mm-hmm.
of something that a sighted person could do trivially can take a while. So it is kind of like kind of the common theme of a lot of stuff is just a tax on my time of simple activities like map creation that are just a core part of my job but are like a very visually focused aspect can end up taking a lot longer, and it's kind of forced me to develop time management skills, forced me to get better at one doing things efficiently and effectively, and also the communication part of knowing, okay, when have I reached a point where I cannot proceed without assistance,
Mm-hmm.
and having a sense of like when that point is, and asking for help basically as soon as I reach that point to not waste even more of my time.
It's amazing the work that's been done in this area. I'm assuming that you may be one of the few students in this situation in your department, and so this may be new to the department chair or the other faculty there. How have you been working with them to address your needs? Have they been supportive? How have things been going?
Uh, yeah, I think it is. It's been a mixed bag,
Okay.
I think. And I think I do know things are better. I actually talked to, because I was at the kind of Stand Up for Science rally in DC in I think February,
Mm-hmm.
and actually talked to one of the speakers there. She's a professor at Johns Hopkins, who I think is legally blind,
Oh, cool.
and in kind of one of their like medical. I forget what specific. I think she does disability work as well, but
Oh.
also it is like a trained biologist, and she was telling stories of kind of her experience going through grad school in I think like probably the mid 2000s,
Uh-huh. So that
and
was a while back.
yeah, just horrific.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like blatant discrimination.
But I bet you're able to teach them a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think things have come
A long
a
way.
long way since then, but it still isn't perfect.
Yeah.
Like there are still like and some professors are better than others. Some will be very willing to work with me. Some will like whatever on day one if I send out the kind of like letter from ADS
Mm-hmm.
that explains the disability, they'll like schedule a meeting, make sure they go through the entire class, and kind of like figure out what the best solution is. And I think I also appreciate it when they take it on their own shoulders as to come up with the problem or a more collaborative approach, versus there are others that are much more just kind of like you can figure it out.
Right.
Just kind of leave me to my own devices in hopes that I will figure out the problem for them, even though it is whatever instruction of me is part of their job.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
you're blazing the path, right?
yeah,
For those who come after you, right? And
yeah. No,
and
I am
that's good.
I am helpful,
Yeah.
and yeah,
That's good.
I think it was heartening to hear like whatever, even like some of the terrible stories of what grad school was like for blind and visually impaired people 2 decades ago, to know that okay, things are legitimately improving, and uh, that kind of things are, and I have hope that the next generation will be better off. It's kind of whatever that hope for a better tomorrow is a
Right.
lot of what drives me. It's why I'm a climate scientist. It's why I've done union organizing. It's a lot of things. It's just whatever I was taught to leave the world a better place than I found it,
That's
and
great.
I'm hopeful that whatever even these small things of having a professor's first experience with a blind student be positive and be okay, if you give him a little assistance, like he will perform at the same high level as every other graduate student in this program. I was accepted because I am good at this, and the visual impairment is a challenge, but it is not an impenetrable roadblock.
That's amazing. You're great. I think this has all been really informative. What are your plans after you graduate?
Uh, that is something I am still trying to figure out. It has,
Aren't we all?
yeah,
Some of
it's,
us have been in jobs for a while and we're still trying to figure that out.
yeah, it's not been the greatest of time because I'm planning to graduate in December.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the greatest of times to graduate with a PhD in climate science. The job market, because I think I had assumed for most of grad school that I was going to go work in the federal government, go work for the EPA or the Department of the Interior or something along those lines.
So that would be your ideal dream job.
Yeah, but a lot of those jobs have kind of dried up with
Yeah.
whatever the federal funding crisis that has hit any number of fields. But I think climate science has been one that's under particular attack.
Well, I have complete faith in you. I am sure you will land on your feet and find something. Are there any final thoughts you have that you want to share?
Uh, I I think we've covered I think a pretty wide range of subjects, and I just appreciate you for having this platform and talking to me today.
No,
So,
well, thank you, Henry. I really appreciate you joining us today. This has been really insightful, and I've really learned a lot about you, about what it's been like for you, and I hope other people who listen do as well. I really hope that the conversation opens people's eyes to what it's like to live with a disability. And so, for more information about resources at UMD about disability, please go to the accessibility website at accessibility.umd.edu. Thank you, Henry, for joining today, and thank you, everyone, for listening.
thank you.